2 Kings, chapter 17. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, Hoshea, son of Elah, reigned in Samaria over Israel for 9 years. And he did the wicked thing in the eyes of the Lord, only not as the kings of Israel who were before him. Shalmaneser, king of the Assyrians, ascended against him. And Hoshea became a bondman to him, and bore gifts to him. And the king of the Assyrians found a plot by Hoshea, for Hoshea sent messengers to So, king of Egypt, and did not bring gifts to the king of the Assyrians year by year. And the king of the Assyrians assaulted him, and tied him up in the house of the prison. And the king of the Assyrians ascended unto all the land, and ascended unto Samaria, and assaulted it for 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of the Assyrians seized Samaria, and resettled Israel into Assyria, and settled them in Halah, and in Habor, the rivers of Gozan, in the borders of the Medes. And it came to pass that the sons of Israel sinned against the Lord their God, the one leading them from out of the land of Egypt, from beneath the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And they feared other gods. And they went by the ordinances of the nations, which the Lord removed in front of the sons of Israel, and the kings of Israel, as many as they did. And the sons of Israel clothed words of wrongdoings against the Lord their God, and built to themselves high places in all their cities, from guard towers unto the fortified city. And they set up to themselves stone monuments and sacred groves upon every high hill and underneath every tree of the woods. And they burned incense there in all the high places, as the nations which the Lord resettled from their face. And they made partners, and they graved images to provoke the Lord to anger. And they served to the idols, which the Lord said to them, Do not do this thing. And the Lord testified to Israel and to Judah by the hand of all his prophets, every one of them seers, saying, Turn from your wicked ways, and guard my commandments and my ordinances, and every law which I gave charge to your fathers, as many as I sent to them by the hand of my bondmen the prophets. And they hearkened not, and they hardened their back above the back of their fathers, that trusted not in the Lord their God, even thrusting away his covenant, and the ordinances which he ordained with their fathers, and his testimonies, as many as he testified to them, and went after the vain things, and acted in folly, and followed after the nations surrounding them, which the Lord gave charge to them to not do according to these things. And they abandoned the commandments of the Lord their God, and made to themselves molten castings of 2 heifers, and made a sacred grove, and did obeisance to all the military of the heaven, and served to Baal. And they led their sons and their daughters through fire, and used oracles of divinations, and foretold. And they were sold to do the wicked thing in the eyes of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. And the Lord was enraged exceedingly with Israel, and he removed them from his face. And he did not leave any behind except the tribe of Judah alone. And indeed Judah did not guard the commandments of the Lord his God, and went by the ordinances of Israel which they did, and they thrusted away the Lord. And the Lord was enraged with all the seed of Israel, and he shook them off, and gave them into the hand of the ones tearing them in pieces, until of which time he threw them away from his face. For furthermore, Israel was torn from the house of David, and they gave reign to Jeroboam son of Nebat. And Jeroboam banished Israel from following the Lord, and led them into sin, a great sin. And the sons of Israel went in all the sins of Jeroboam which he did. They abstained not from them, until of which the Lord removed Israel from his face, as the Lord spoke by the hand of all his bondmen the prophets. And Israel was resettled from its land into Assyria until this day. And the king of the Assyrians led from out of Babylon the one from out of Cutha, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and settled them in the cities of Samaria instead of the sons of Israel. And they inherited Samaria, and settled in its cities. And it came to pass, in the beginning of their place of sitting down, they did not fear the Lord. And the Lord sent among them the lions, and they were being killed by them. And they said to the king of the Assyrians, saying, The nations which you resettled and relocated in the cities of Samaria know not the distinguishing manner of the God of the land. And he sent to them lions, and behold, they are killing them, insofar as they know not the distinguishing manner of the God of the land. And the king of the Assyrians gave charge, saying, Lead away there one of the priests whom I resettled from out of Samaria, and let him go and dwell there, and he shall enlighten them on the distinguishing manner of the God of the land. And they brought one of the priests whom they resettled from Samaria, and he settled in Bethel. And he was enlightening them how they should fear the Lord. And nation by nation were making their gods, and they put them in the houses of the high places, which the Samaritans made, nation by nation in their cities in which they dwelt. And the men of Babylon made Succoth-Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima, and the Avites made Nibhaz and Tartak, and the Sepharvites incinerated their sons by fire to Adramelech and Anamelech, gods of the Sepharvaim. And they were fearing the Lord, and they also made for themselves priests of the high places, and they offered for themselves in the houses of the high places. They were fearing the Lord, and they served their gods, according to the distinguishing manner of the nations from where he resettled them from there. Until this day they do according to their distinguishing manner. They are not fearing the Lord, and they do not do according to their ordinances, and according to their judgment, and according to the law, and according to the commandment which the Lord gave charge to the sons of Jacob, of whom he established his name Israel. And the Lord ordained with them a covenant, and gave charge to them, saying, You shall not fear other gods, and you shall not do obeisance to them, and you shall not serve to them, and you shall not sacrifice to them. For only to the Lord, who led you from out of the land of Egypt with great strength and with a high arm, him you shall fear, and to him you shall do obeisance, and to him you shall sacrifice. And his ordinances, and the judgments, and the commandments, and the law which he wrote for you, you shall guard to do all the days, and you shall not fear other gods. And the covenant which he ordained with you, you shall not forget, and you shall not fear other gods. For only the Lord your God, him you shall fear, and he will rescue you from out of the hand of all your enemies. And they hearkened not, but only in their former ordinances they acted. And these nations were fearing the Lord, and they served to their carvings, even indeed their sons, and the sons of their sons themselves do as did their fathers unto this day.